What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be going over a few news and rumors regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs and why a trade is probably imminent, especially with Nick Richie. We're going to look over maybe a couple people that the Leafs could be interested in and potentially could be trading for. So a little bit of everything in this video. So if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Tons of Leafs content, especially trade rumor related, is coming to the channel. Of course, we're getting closer to the NHL trade deadline, and you guys know that's been my specialty on this channel for years. So make sure to like and subscribe. I know there's a lot of people that watch that aren't subbed. It would really help me. It's completely free, so I'd really appreciate that. But let's start off with a little bit of news that could kind of shift things a little bit when it comes to the Leafs deadline's plans. Now, it doesn't seem like a massive move because it really isn't, but in terms of the way that the cap is used, Adam Brooks was claimed on waivers by the Toronto Maple Leafs today. Of course, we're very familiar with him because he's been in the Leafs system before. The 25-year-old has had, not the greatest year, 3 points in 11 games played, but he is a pretty decent depth piece. Of course, the last time he played for Toronto, he had 4 goals and an assist with 5 points in 11 games played, and he was doing that on the fourth line. So, not too bad. He isn't the worst player. I know some people were like, oh, he's been on waivers 3 times. But the thing is he's also been claimed 3 times. Players can just be sent to the minors and teams could just let them pass by, but he's been claimed 3 separate times, and Vegas claimed him. They just couldn't use him. Montreal did the same thing, and now he's back with Toronto, and Toronto didn't want to lose him in the first place either. I wouldn't put too much stock into this other than the fact that it has a little bit of an impact on what the Leafs are going to be doing probably towards the deadline and in the very near future, because I do believe something could happen very soon. Now, as we know, the Leafs are trying to accrue cap space before the trade deadline, and you guys are going to see this $480K of space and be a little bit confused. Now, the reason why that is because the Toronto Maple Leafs today, as they've received Adam Brooks, have apparently sent Timothy Liljegren back down to the minors. So his $863,000 cap hit is now back down with the Toronto Marlies, and Adam Brooks would be the extra forward. The Leafs would be just going with these 6 defensemen for the time being. Now, I'm not sure how long this is going to be a thing, because the Toronto Maple Leafs can't afford to have Liljegren in the minors for a long period of time. Now, what some people have also brought up, and something that I have also just kind of thought of, is what if the Leafs are just going to go back and forth with sending Sandin down, bringing Liljegren up, and just kind of, bringing them up and down because they can. They're on those 2-way deals. The Leafs are able to do that. I'm not too happy with that, especially, I wouldn't think the Leafs would want to do that with Sandin, especially because he's had a really good year. But even Liljegren's been better than Hall on a lot of nights. He's been better than Dermott on a lot of nights. He's been one of our better guys in some games. So for me, this just screams that the Leafs are really trying to trade this Nick Richie contract, because if they do, of course, this page is not working correctly. We're gonna refresh it. If they do, they will have a little bit more cap space. Now, of course, that would give them close to $2 million. And if they're able to trade with another team that is willing to take on some of the retention, then yeah, you're probably going to get a player that could be, in the $3 to $4 million range, because I'm sure there would be money going out as well. If it was a defenseman, you're probably going to try to slide somebody else into that deal, to solidify a top 6 and then have one depth guy coming up from the Marlies, or whatever you want to do. Maybe you acquire another depth piece. There's a lot of different options. But I definitely don't think that the Leafs are done, because there's been a lot of talk recently about the fact that the Leafs do want to clear out cap space towards the NHL trade deadline. And, my title is probably going to be, Maple Leafs trade coming soon, because I honestly do believe that something is coming soon. This isn't some sort of clickbait. I really do believe that something could happen, because this past Saturday on the 32 Thoughts segment on Hockey Night in Canada, basically they were talking about the fact that the Leafs are really trying to get rid of this Nick Richie contract. Now, I don't really want to talk too much in length about how bad the contract is, because I think that there was a lot of teams that were willing to pay the money that the Leafs did for Nick Richie. At $2.5 million after the year he had in Boston, obviously scoring his career high in goals, and putting up 26 points. And he's a physical guy. It's something that the Leafs really wanted. They wanted a guy that was physical, and could bring a bit of a scoring touch, possibly playing with some really good players in the top six, a crash and bang style player. It didn't work. The Leafs got that in Bunting. They got Michael Bunting, and he's been the guy that they've needed, but he's been under $1 million. So while I'm not a fan of this contract, and I was a little bit scared when it was signed, I really didn't think it would come to this. I thought Richie would probably be a decent guy to have on this team, and probably be a little bit overpaid, but at this point it looks like the contract is going to be sold off. Now, a lot of people are talking about how the Leafs are going to have to overpay to get rid of this contract. I really don't believe that's the case. There's been way worse contracts traded, guys. You can just look it up. Way worse players traded with higher cap hits and longer term that have been traded away for, middle picks, maybe a half decent prospect. It happens. There's bad contracts. Every team goes through it, but they're tradable, and it's happened many times before. It's happened with the Leafs. It's happened with everybody, okay? So I wouldn't put too much into that. But basically what Elliot Friedman also wanted to bring up was, if the Leafs did have to retain anything, it wouldn't be more than $300K, because if the Leafs do decide to buy Nick Richie out, it would be $300,000 on their cap next year. But the Leafs can't afford really to have extra money laying around, especially of guys that aren't even on the team. But if that had to be what it came to, they're not going to be trying to retain a bunch of money, because, listen, they could just buy him out and it'll be just as cheap. They just obviously it would just look bad. Honestly, I think that's why buyouts don't happen as much. I think it's an ego thing, in my opinion. Like, there's got to be a little bit of that, because they don't want to buy out a contract that they had just signed, which, I mean, I can understand that. But Nick Richie, definitely, that deal is probably going to be traded, and that's why I do believe a trade is imminent. But that also means that there's hopefully going to be a follow-up move. Now, I know a lot of people are talking in length about Ben Chiarot. There's a lot of people that think, oh, this is a really good, player for the Leafs. He's a good depth guy. He's physical, a defensive style guy. He's physical. But what I need people to understand is that he's not really good defensively. He's actually, okay, I'm gonna be nice about it. He's not a good fit for Toronto. I think there's what a lot of people believe he is from just watching a few clips and watching the Leafs play against Montreal and seeing him cross-check a few people and thinking, this is great, this is what we need. But you have to watch what he does in length over time and look at his numbers. He's not the guy that the Leafs should be picking up, even though the rumors are there that the Leafs have probably kicked tires on this. Now, JFresh Hockey has always been posting these, and I see him on Twitter all the time. So this was a tweet from today. The thing that doesn't get talked about enough, Chiarot, is the penalties. He's taken 44 more minor penalties than he's drawn since 2019. That's the second worst differential in the NHL. You can argue about his value when he's on the ice, but he puts you shorthanded plenty. So looking at his numbers, this is really not good. You're seeing a lot of red. His defensive numbers are not good at all. So that's kind of concerning, considering people think that he's some sort of great defensive guy. But this is also interesting, because this is the follow-up tweet that's very, very intriguing to me. JFresh says, and before I hear but penalties don't get called in the playoffs, Chiarot has taken 56 penalties in 154 regular season games since 2019, or 0.36 penalties per game. He's taken 14 penalties in 32 playoff games since then. That's a .44 per game. This is more, obviously this is more of an issue in the playoffs. So he's taking more penalties per game on average in the playoffs. And that's obviously not a good thing. Now, the quote tweets, I believe that there was a really good tweet. Okay, it's not here anymore. But anyways, I believe that there was a really good response to this. This is also something that I find interesting. Chiarot isn't completely incapable out there, aside from staying out of the box. He's had to do more in Montreal this season than he should have to do. So this is where the Montreal Canadiens being bad comes into play. Chiarot has had to do a little bit more, but I'm sorry, I'm not a fan. I just don't think that this makes sense. Why are you going to give assets to a player that you don't believe is going to be good? Now, this is from April 10th, 2021. So when David Savard was acquired by Tampa and a first-round pick was involved and it was a high acquisition cost, David Savard was putting up really strong defensive numbers. This is a much different chart than the Chiarot chart. If Montreal is looking for a first and a third, or a first and a really good prospect, or maybe it's a really good prospect plus a middle pick, regardless, Savard was worth it for Tampa because he actually was putting up really good defensive numbers despite anything else. He was playing good minutes. He was putting up good numbers. He was physical. He was giving you what you wanted. He's giving you what the Leaf fans think Chiarot is going to give you. Chiarot is not going to give you that. And again, I'm not here to just hate on the guy, but I just don't believe that he's the best fit. Now, I got to shout out the Leafs IMO because there's another player that I wanted to talk about that I've talked about at length on this channel many times, especially in the last couple of years, and that's DeMelo. He's currently on the Winnipeg Jets. They haven't been that great this season, but this is what you call a defensive defenseman. He doesn't do a ton when it comes to offense, but if you want a stay-at-home defenseman, you see his projected and pace for 2021 and 2022 has him in the star defensive numbers. Guys, if you're going to spend assets, if you're going to want a guy that has term, because I know a lot of Leaf fans value term, I think DeMelo is probably a fantastic option for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And again, I've said this the last couple of years. I said DeMelo would be a wicked guy for the Leafs to pick up. So if we're looking at him in terms of his cap hit, that $3 million cap hit, sure, you could get Winnipeg to eat money, but they're not going to do that because he's got term. So this would scream the Leafs having to involve a guy like Justin Hall or Travis Dermott in the trade, because then the money would work. But that also means they would have to trade Nick Richie. So I doubt Richie would be going to the Jets, but who knows, crazier things have happened. But there's potential for a pretty big trade happening here. I'm going to look up something in the middle of this video because is Andrew Kopp also available? I think Andrew Kopp is also available. I wonder if this is a monster trade that the Leafs could make. I don't know if it's possible, but if you want to talk about big trades and people are talking about, well, if the Leafs want to go all in, this would be something you could do. You would have to definitely have some money out. I want to see what his contract is at right now. Yeah, $3.6 million. This would have to be a massive trade. Winnipeg would have to eat some money. But if they were willing to do that, I think this is where the Leafs would have to spend legitimate assets to acquire a DeMelo or an Andrew Kopp, or maybe both. Both would be a huge package. You're talking a first, you're talking another high pick for the following draft. You're probably talking a top prospect. This would be something that would probably put the Leafs over the top as a major contender. And that's like a fantasy Candyland amazing trade that the Leafs could make if you could acquire both of them. Which at that point, there would have to be, like I said, a lot of money out and a lot coming back with Andrew Kopp and DeMelo. But I think it's something that could be possible if the Leafs are really willing to go all in, which I still believe they should be doing. But I'm going to be getting into that in a podcast that I'm going to be doing hopefully within the next couple days. But just to give you guys a little bit of some options that I believe would be good DeMelo, Cop. I talked about Shen before. I'm not a big fan of Chiarot, as you guys can clearly see, and just a little bit of some rumors that have been going on. So we'll have to see what happens. But if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'd love to have you guys here. I know, like I said, I know there's a ton of people that watch these videos that aren't subscribed. It does help me by just liking and subscribing to the videos. And after the trade deadline, if you don't want to watch anymore, I totally understand. You could just unsubscribe. But I think you guys will like a lot of the content here. I do a lot of live streams as well. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. I love and appreciate you guys as always. Let me know your thoughts down below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.